I kind of want to ask you guys, are you NBA fans? Do you guys enjoy, like my dad loves watching college basketball. He's not as much into NBA, professional basketball, but he enjoys the college game. Where do you guys stand?
That's kind of me too.
Why?
Well, when I first started watching NBA, it was not very good. I didn't think, years and years ago. Now they're getting very, very good, and it's the game is such a different concept of what I liked about basketball. It's just run up 100 and some points and just take all kinds of weird shots and a little team play once in a while. But I don't know. I'm not an NBA fan. No.
More college, huh? How about the rest of you guys?
I like the college game better. I like the Lynx better than I do the NBA because they still play basketball. There's a lot of things that they do, and there's not the dunk and some of the easy stuff. They set some out of bounds, play nice plays, etc. And the college is the same way. All the colleges all the teams are playing the same offense now. It's you don't see the creativity that I think used to be there. But the pros, the floor's too small, the basket's too low.
Do you guys agree with that?
The court's too small. I agree. I like the college game better, but these guys are so good and so big. It's hard to do much out there. I enjoy the changes in the NBA game to the smaller player and more like the Warriors play. It's more fun to watch. 3-point shooting and taking the big guys away from the basket and cutting down the lane. That's fun to watch, but the college game is hard to beat that. NCAA tournament's best in town. That's the greatest.
Well, I got to know Sean Sweeney from Creighton-Durham Hall. We used to play, and he went to a Final Four, and he didn't have a place to stay. So we invited him, come, you can sleep in the bathtub. And we kept in touch with him. And he just said it's really hard to guard in the NBA. These guys are so good that you really have to know how to move people, like going on a screen, bumping up the screener higher. It's like that's what's going to allow you to be able to defend this guy. And then certain guys, as soon as they come in, they know that if they're going to be a pop, a screen and pop, they would be looking for that. So it's really well scouted, and it's really hard to stop the great ones because they can take a situation which breaks down the play, but they can maneuver their way or find a guy and hit the open guy. And there's a chess game, but you have to really get immersed in it to understand what they're trying to do out there, especially with the screens that are on the ball. Sometimes they want the guy that rolls. They won't throw it to him when he's rolling, but they'll throw it out to the corners where he's a better feed. So it's when do you play the ball or when do you play the screener? And that's pretty cut and dry on some of the scouting reports. They have all these computerized little dots, heat dots, they show you where a guy gets all his shots and what he shoots from there.
His sweet spots.
Yeah, they publish those. You can go look at it. And you got your own scouting report there.
Are they enforcing the rules? Like, or it seems like there's a lot of traveling, and there's one of LeBron James, and I think he's a fabulous player. There was a highlight a couple of years ago, but he did change his pivot foot 2 or 3 times. And they were telling you this was a great play, but we remember I was always taught by our coaches, if it looks like traveling, it's going to be called traveling. Now I think I hear from officials that they're telling us if you're calling traveling, you better be able to go over and explain it. Well, I think they're getting by with sliding their foot and this Euro step. There's a guy on YouTube that I think it is not traveling the way he's teaching it, but I see him get that extra step down, and they don't call that traveling, and I think that's a walk. But, you know,
So let's move on. We're talking coaching, right? What was the best thing about the job? What was the best thing or you enjoyed the most about coaching?
I like practice. I thought practice was fun for me. I really did. It was kind of fun to see if you could get, like, maybe the second team to challenge the first team a little bit. You know, try to encourage those kids to be a part of it. And, you know, there was, do you make this competitive or is this a teaching situation? I really do. I think I miss the practice more than I do the actual games. But
Yeah, I think the same thing, the practice, because as a teacher, the practice is when you did the teaching, and we are basically teachers, and that's when you say, I can, during the time, we can teach these players to do whatever skills, develop whatever skills, where I think maybe some of the people who are not in education come in, who are maybe just players, don't maybe look forward maybe to the competition rather than to teach the game fundamentally.
Best part of the job, you guys? What did you enjoy the most out of coaching?
I like being in the gym. And that's when you really get a chance to talk to your players about, and otherwise you're in the confined time schedule during the season. And when you do coach, it's always, you know, everybody's involved in it, and you don't get a real good chance to visit in a kind of a relaxed manner where there isn't a lot of pressure on the outcome of what they're doing. And so I used to just open up the gym and sit with sometimes a mother would come pick up her kid. There's a lot of that. But I like that part of it. I just like being in the gym.
Steve?
A lot of good kids I had a chance to work with, and just being with them and watching them develop and trying to coordinate 5, 6, or 7 guys into some team concepts. That was the most fun for me.
I should bring up, and this might be interesting for you guys, when we sat down and talked to my father and Jack, one thing that they both agreed on that they're really curious about is to find all the players that you dealt with and coached through the years, what those kids are doing now. Is that basically what you said?
Yeah, so, and now what the kids are teaching, they have teacher aides and so forth. And and Jeff is trying to go along with me on that too. Try to pick out one kid out of each class that you've had, each team that you've had. There's enough outstanding kids. And get your teacher, excuse me, your teacher aide, track that kid down and put a tracer on all those kids and just have a form for them to fill out. What are you doing? Kids you got? What type of background do you have? And just to find out. Because they were more than players to me. They were kids, they were friends. I look forward to seeing them every day at practice. And every once in a while you bump into somebody and somebody comes up and say, Coach, I'd like you to meet my wife. These are my kids. That really makes my day.
Yeah.
you
made enough time that they would want to take the time
I
to do
really
it.
like it when they come up and, hey, I had you third hour reading class or something. And I always tell them, thank you for introducing yourself. Sometimes I tell them, you look familiar, I know where you sat, but I can't remember your name.
But are you curious where they ended up?
Oh, yeah.
You know, when they left you, where they went. Does that make you
In
curious?
my reading class, boy, sometimes you had some kids, you know, this kid's gonna get out and he's gonna work for somebody, he'll be fine. He's got a pretty good work ethic. And then there were some, you say, my gosh, what is this guy gonna be able to do? And, you know, but a lot of them turn out, they're pretty, they turn out, most of them turn out all right.
I mentioned the story before, I guess, that when I played college ball in the Wisconsin State College Conference, and you played the same teams locally, one half of the state twice a year. And we played River Falls every year, and there was a kid playing for them that we ended up guarding each other. And after 4 years, got to know him pretty well. And so my first teaching job was in his hometown. And my first class, I had his twin sisters in my class. So now I come to find out he ends up being a principal at Red Wing High School, where he retired. And my son was coaching some teams, and they pick up a couple traveling kids in the spring to make a team. And one of the kids from Prior Lake was his son and his grandson. So we got to make an association that just would go through two families.
See that in traveling league now, you know, you see kids that played for you are coaching their kids.
Mm-hmm.
I got one where my first center, his own kids and grandkids are college basketball players, girls especially, Creighton and Drake. But it's surprising, I look through all these guys, there's hardly any of them that went into high school coaching. I think I can't find 5 in 45 years. They're all in business and doing things that are maybe financially more rewarding, I guess.
Probably.
No, it's interesting. I'm trying to get a database of my 15 years of coaching with emails and addresses, etc., so I can see if I can find out where all of them are. Well, I probably have 20-25% that I've identified and I could contact. And hopefully, if the word gets out that somebody knows somebody's email address, and eventually I can maybe get all of them and just send them a
I got
open emails.
I got a phone call last basketball season, right after the girls, from a kid who was a substitute. And he said, hey, I used to run this passing to the post drill, and I couldn't remember what it was. He said, it was really good. I thought it worked really well. And I said, Chris, you got to give me a couple days. I said, I can't remember what he said, it was great. It really worked us on feeding the post on the right side. I could not remember the drill. And I said, you got to call me back. I got to think about this.
Did you ever think of it?
I didn't, but it was, and he was a substitute. And I do not think that his parents were always real supportive either. I was surprised he contacted me. But he said, I'm coaching my daughter's, I think it was like 9th grade traveling league, and I can't get them to feed the post. And he said, I can't remember that drill that you had. And it was, I said, well, thanks for calling. And he never called back, I don't think either, but I can't remember the drill. And it was really strange. He said it was really good.
All right, how about the worst thing about the job? What's the worst thing about being a coach?
The worst thing for me was cutting a team down. You had to, within reason, you had to have so many guys on your JV varsity. You had to make it work out so you had varsity guys and JV guys. And to have to tell a kid or a couple of kids that we couldn't use them or it was in the best interest of everybody that they not stay on the team, that was the hardest. And then also playing time. It's easy for the really good players because you want to have them on the floor. Where I coached, it was hard to get, you had enough of a drop-off that it was hard to include within that second 5 players that you could play meaningfully for a length of time and still be at your best competitive level. So cutting kids and playing time, I think, the 2 biggest things that were tough.
Worst part of the job, guys?
Well, I agree with Steve on that part. My first few years, we didn't have a JV team. we just had a sophomore team and a varsity team. So now you're really in a bind about what kids you are going to keep and not keep. And it was like you say, it's a tough deal to put those names up and have to sit and talk to those kids, et cetera, et cetera. So that was pretty tough. The other part that's tough now is you remember the coach of Brainerd last year when it's in the big article in the paper when he was winning and parents were after him and they would meet him on his way to his car after the game. Talking, how come my kid's not playing or whatever there is. So he's not going to get a scholarship or whatever. That can't be any fun at all, that part of it.
I think over the years, since they've eliminated a lot of the junior high, middle school programs, they play in traveling programs. And I just got a program here. They try not to cut. They got 5 7th grade teams. But you can find a schedule for all of them. So they all come up playing. And we can't always provide that. And I think the Southwest Metro here has done a great job of providing opportunities to play. So when we get the cutting, we list all the teams that they could play on. What are the other avenues where you can continue playing? There's been a real competitive church league that winds up playing their championships at Augsburg. More recently, I've got some grandkids that are in the Wyzetta program, and they get way more kids than they can ever keep. And they've got 7th, 8th graders on the varsity. They're good. Well, these other kids will never play. There's just too many kids that are really good. And so they have a Saturday league. They have volunteer coaches, and kids sign up. There's an outlet for them. And so I used to just list all the outlets that you can pursue if you want to keep playing basketball. Come back for another year. We had one kid several years ago, only about 5 years ago. He got cut from the 9th grade team, was a senior captain on the varsity. He's in his book for 3 games where he hit 7 3-pointers.
Did your administration want you to talk to the kids too when you cut them from the team?
Not like it was a requirement, but that worked out best if you did.
Yeah.
And it didn't work out all the time. But my mentor in baseball coaching, Buster Rodbach, had a knack of, he would call in a kid that was borderline, and he had a knack of being able to talk to that kid, and by the time the kid walked out of the office, he felt okay about it, felt good about it. And that's a real knack that some people have, others don't have. And how you handle that is really important. Because it's a long-term remembrance, and if you do it in the right way, talking to them, I think, is better than just putting a list up and then making no comment at all.
I think some kids don't want to talk though, at that particular moment. I wish, our administration wanted us to sit down and talk with them. So we called them all in. So the kid who got called in, we would call Kevin Lynch in, even though everybody knew he was going to be on the team, but because we didn't want to tell, that, he got called in, he didn't make her, and so, but it was cutting was, and the public makes it sound like you guys love to do this too.
Yeah, it's
It's the hardest thing to do.
coming from the mother, yeah.
You feel terrible. Sometimes you just felt terrible.
Yeah, I did, definitely.
I agree with Steve talking about the cutting. It still bothers me today when I look back at some of the teams and I see somebody on the street or something that he was interested in playing, but wasn't quite talented enough. But I had a guy I worked with, Kevin's father, Jake. We had the same philosophy. I don't want to post a list. Come down and check the list after lunch. If you're not on it, you don't get a uniform. But we said, what we're going to do, we're going to call the kid in. We take him in the back room out there after practice, and both of us would have our say, good points, bad points. What we wanted them to do was continue playing if they could. would you want to continue as a manager or be with the team stats or something, be part of the program, which you wanted to be part. And that's something, I don't know whether they still cut the same way today or what, but.